Hello, in this video, I'm going to give a brief summary of my model. My idea revolves around three main objectives: integrating the system as a whole by combining the hardware and the software functionality. Secondly, how it benefits the society. And thirdly, if it is environmental friendly. This was a unique experience for me as the LPC802 boards are not commonly used and the resources are limited, which helps engineer up their game and help widen their skill sets. This project taught me how to configure different modules and build them into one and test the model. It was quite a fun time to figure out what components and timers to use to make it the most efficient concept. Here, have a look at this exciting model, and now I shall show you how it works. Starting with the list of the components that I've used. So I have an LPC802 board, this one, a breadboard, a bunch of jumper wires, which makes this circuit looks so complicated, but it is not that bad. A 7-segment display where only digit on 1 is turned on. Now the main functionality of my project is to show different modes of how the LED lights up when an input is triggered. Here, my input being the user button, which is GPIO 8, which you can see. This, if you see closely, it says user. That is the user button that I'm using. So on pressing the button once, what happens is right now there is no interrupt triggered or the input is triggered, right? I haven't pressed the button yet. So the LED is in off mode and hence it displays O on the 7-segment display. Now I press the button once, that is here. It means that I'm in the first mode and it is at a dim mode right now. When I press the button again, it got a little brighter and it shows 2 because it is on the second mode, which is why it displays 2 on the 7-segment display. Now when I press it for the third time, if you see, the display is 3, which means the LED is at its brightest. I want to turn it back off. I just need to press it again and it enters the mode O again, which is the off mode. I thought of this idea because despite the technical and embedded system learning outcomes, it is economical and environmental friendly. Being a student, I know how helpful this would be if implemented in all of the residences, or especially when there are 2 people sharing a room. It works in the favor of both the roommates if one needs to study while the other wants to sleep. This is when you can probably keep the light in mode 2. So if I do this, just a second. Okay, this mode is the best for the reading mode, for instance. Now, if you want to sleep and use it as a light lamp, you can also use it and put the LED on mode 1. Here, it's in mode 1 and you can use it as a night lamp. Now what happens is that a lot of times people want to watch movies or read a book. They put a cloth to dim the light, which wastes electricity and power. In order to avoid that, this model can be a relief. Moreover, just using an LED itself saves power and it's an advantage to the system. Now you would be wondering as to what is happening inside the system. Is it magic? Is it natural? But hey, let me get rid of that question. When a user presses the button, the interrupt service routine is triggered, which in sense checks whether the interrupt occurred from. Using an inbuilt multi-rate timer, I could add the dimming functionality when the MRT handler would be triggered after the button handler figures out how many times the button was pressed. So now, when I press the button 4 times, 3 and 4, it will give the counter as 4, and that's how my display and the dimming functionality is working. There are different intensity due to the duty factor that I have used, which is 50% for my case. I would like to add that this was not as hard as I thought it could get during such global crisis because of the constant help that the professors and TAs put in. This whole process helped me understand how a project lifecycle works, and I could showcase a bunch of my skills. I learned how to wire the 7-segment correctly, as some of the GPIO input pins were used by the user button and LED, which made me wire it a little differently than what was taught in the lab. Also notice I didn't use resistors, which I also did during my lab, but here I experimented and it works. Moreover, I learned how to combine a bunch of modules learned in the class. For instance, in my project, I had to merge MRT timer with button press and a 7-segment display. Now, learning each part individually during the labs and classes gave me an insight as to how it works, but the project taught how all blocks together make a wonderful model. Thank you and have a nice day.